Hello, I'm Stephan Schwartz. Remote viewing in its modern context was designed by myself, Hal Puthoff, Russell Targ, Ed May at the Stanford Research Institute, SRI, Ingo Swann, Pat Price at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Group with Bob John and Brenda Dunn, and myself at the Mobius Society. We began working in this area as a kind of next generation from the research that had gone before. The Rhine Research Center, headed by J.B. Rhine, and his colleagues, along with some others, in the 20s and 30s, continuing up into the 60s, had designed a series of protocols that would allow statistical analysis of the outcome of an experiment to be measured. That is, what is the chance that this happened by chance? But the protocols that they used were essentially kind of boring, and it produced what came to be known as the decline effect. That is, people who were enthusiastic initially, upon doing hundreds or thousands of these experiments, became bored and stopped performing as well. And those of us who were sort of in the next generation of researchers ask ourselves, isn't there some other way that we could develop a protocol that didn't have the decline effect, where people were able to speak freely and we were able to extract the information and be able to objectively verify it and be able to develop a statistical analysis? And that came to be known as remote viewing, a term coined by Ingo Swann, a New York fine arts painter who began working at the SRI lab. It's really a dreadful term because it has nothing to do with the remote, and it doesn't have anything to do with viewing, but it is a measure of our innocence and ignorance, that when we began the research, it all made perfect sense. Today, we would call this non-local perception. That is, accessing an aspect of the consciousness of the mind, which can provide information that your normal senses could not understand, could not know about, because of reasons of shielding by space or time. This is an aspect of us to which we all have access. It's spread through the population like any other human ability. That is, it's a bell curve, looks like a bell. Few people at one end just don't get it. Few people at the other end are particularly gifted, and most of us fall somewhere in the middle. There are basically two components to remote viewing. One is your innate ability, just what you're born with, in the same way that you're born with math skills or the ability to play musical instruments or sports ability. And the other is the discipline you develop to express your innate ability. But it is a learnable skill. Thousands of people now do it. Remote viewing is the one protocol which has moved from an obscure laboratory process to a social movement. Today, there are thousands of people doing this. The International Remote Viewing Association is an association of people interested in remote viewing. Conferences are held, journals are published. It has moved from this obscure little scientific technique designed by a few of us back in the early 70s until today. It is an avocational social movement.